Hey, um, just a little something I've been working on with 3D. Um, I've been going through and testing this with varied results, and I think I'm getting closer to what I want, really. And what is this? This is for the GameCube. Um, so this right here is a spacer plate. Um, this hole cut out here. So on the DLL 001, which is the, for most of them, not all of them, is the model with the twin ports at the back. So you've got the regular AV and the digital out component. And basically, these models will allow you to remove the GameCube dual faceplate. Now, inside the faceplate or the lid itself, it's got registration keys, or a registration key, which is a raised area that matches the holes cut out on the bottom of the faceplate. And basically, it's kind of stops it from moving around, but not really. Um, Not so much considering it's got clips and stuff that holds it to the console itself. I'll show you that in a second. So what I've done is I've done some measuring and some 3D work here in Blender, and basically got this plate modeled up. And I've had some trial and error with this hole to dodge the registration keys, as I've pretty much found out it's not really necessary to, you don't have to line it up perfectly. I've chosen not to add the clips, just for ease of printing for myself anyway. I've got some double-sided tape um, that most of the third-party um, custom faceplates use anyway. So I've gone for that route, and I'll show you how I get it on there. Anyway, this is my plate. I have added a custom. Sorry, I'm on the laptop. Um, it's a bit fiddly at the minute, but I've added a custom cutout into this plate. Just, I guess, my own branding. I guess if I do decide to sell these on Etsy or whatever, once I've figured it out. So I've got my 8-bit toaster made in Australia, and looking pretty snazzy. I'm yet to print this one specifically. I have printed another one with different markings on it, I guess. So basically, this is just the bottom spacer to line up with the case of the GameCube itself. And if we zoom out and get this bad boy and bring him down, so this is the actual pretty design plate, which will be stuck to the spacer plate. And basically, this is just a Evangelion Nerve logo with the AVA Unit 1 head incorporated into it. So this isn't my design. This was found on Google as a vector image. And using the vector, I've created a 3D stamp, basically, and used that to cut into my plate, which doesn't actually fit perfectly. It's pretty close. But when I made a test print earlier, it actually fits pretty well. Um, so yeah, first I made a disc basically, and I used a 3D stamp, removed it from the disc, and one of my previous tests, I spray painted it black. Since I've been using a clear red resin, just a cheap one that I had laying around. Basically, I'm not going to use my good stuff to make prototypes out of, I guess. And yeah, I spray painted that black, and then I went through with a fine brush and painted all the recesses white. And I found that to be a bit of a pain, basically just because white is difficult to paint. Multiple layers. It took me a little bit of time, but I haven't had much experience, I guess. So it took me a bit of time. So I've thought of a solution. So I'm going to be printing these in black, eventually anyway. And I've got some white UV resin, and I've got some dental syringes, which I'll be experimenting with because the curing of resin, I'd like it to be done properly and all the way through, ideally. So I'm gonna have to experiment. I might have to put it on with a brush layer by layer. Who knows? But we'll get there eventually. So I'm going to swap over to my camera, and I've got a couple of plates here. This one's actually warped a bit, but I'll show you what's going on. Alright, so capture device, camera. Hello, hello. So this is the Gamecube I've been testing things on. This is eventually going to be a Gamecube inspired by Evangelion, as it is anyway, Unit 1, so this is why I'm using this design currently, I guess for personal use. So these plates, this is the spacer plate, this is the aftermarket one that came with this shell, and as you can see there's these tabs. And these tabs will fit down into these holes and clip onto the other side. So basically, under here, if you squeeze the tabs up here, you can pop out your plate, and that's the same way to remove a official plate. So right here I have a official plate from a DOL 001, and as you can see down here there's holes cut out in the Nintendo logo, and that is the registration key I was talking about, which is down here on the system itself. So they got these raised edges, and basically if you were to print a flat plate, which I've got, it will rock. So here is a test print plate, and basically when you put it in here, you'll see it rocks because it's sat on a raised edge. Now, the way 3D printing works, I don't really want to add support to a cutout on the bottom. It just gets a bit messy. There'll be a lot of cleanup down here, and support will be ugly, and I don't really want to deal with it, so I'm going with a two-part approach. So this was a test print, turned out okay. I've got another one here. This is a Metal Gear Solid Foxhound. I was testing, I guess, putting in logos and stuff, and printing flat to the bed without support. It's not really ideal, I guess. Well, it's not ideal at all, really. So the two-part approach was my way forward. Now, with the test, this is a test spacer with a hole cut out. From memory, this doesn't line up. Yeah, as you can see, I missed it. So I went through and did a secondary test. This is warped, basically. It snaps now. Good job. But this warped and wasn't too good, but it's going to be fastened with the double-sided tape regardless, which will stop warping and eventually potentially I'll just glue it. I can double-sided tape for, I guess, those that don't want to use the spacer. I guess for a 101. I don't know how you go about doing it for a 101. I haven't lifted the jewel on a 101, but they might not have the Nintendo key under them. Might have to do that sometime. Anyway, this is the one that I painted. It looks pretty good, with exception of taking a while to actually paint the recesses, but fits nicely. It looks great, but it rocks. Could probably pack it out in the bottom and get it to lay flush, but I'm trying to avoid that. Okay, so where is my completed plate? I don't see it. I will be back in 2 seconds. And of course, I did prepare, and I'm just blind. So, there you go, branding. It was in front of me the whole time. So this is the completed test plate, and I've got my tab here. I've got my registration key here. This is my old logoing, I guess. And I'll be printing off a secondary test print with the made in Australia. But as you can see here, right through this, there is a double-sided tape on the underside, up here too, and this one here across the top. Basically, the idea is to peel it off, and when you fix it, put it to the side, make sure you're aligned as best as possible, and drop it in. And with this one, there's a bit of wiggle room. These shells are actually the cutout around here is actually bigger than an official shell. I found that this was actually too wide, slightly, very, very slightly, for an official shell. So I have brought the sizing down. This is now harder to get out than the other one. But once it's fastened down with the tape, this tape's actually fairly strong, and hopefully I won't get any warping under here and, pulling up, I guess. So that's that. And yeah, progress on something new, something cool. And and might put them on Etsy. Maybe I can do custom designs using this same method. Anyway, for filling this this hole, so this one's just sprayed black, but I'll be using black resin itself. I've got white resin, and the idea is either, well, basically, I'm going to try this one first. I've got this is a dental syringe. I'm going to attempt to put just a little bit, not. You don't want to waste all your resin. A little bit of resin in here, and use this basically to fill the voids and try to get it as flat level as possible. Wipe up the excess, and then cure it by hand with a UV lamp. I'm using, it's kind of like a stage lamp, I guess, a small stage lamp, UV, and hopefully it will cure properly in solid. I'll have to do some testing. I'll probably do it with, I'll continue to use this red stuff, and if I get it done correctly, I'll transfer over to the expensive, I've got Soraya Tech, I think that's how you say it, Soraya Tech. It's a high tensile, is it high tensile? I don't know. It's a stronger, it's for engineering. It's basically just a stronger resin. And for something flat, you see what happens with this. It's brittle. If you bend it, the Soraya Tech basically has a lot more flex, a lot more give to it, and you won't get that. But once these are in flat biscuits, and I guess in a Gamecube itself, right, it's not going to go anywhere. So I found this to be pretty good use for this resin, I guess. Doesn't have to be mechanically super strong, but I also felt that the double-sided tape would be a decent option as well, considering you can still access these holes at the bottom, and I guess a set of tweezers or something, and just push it up to remove the tape, and still be able to replace it. So that's what I've been working on. Something cool, something new, and if there's any designs, basically, you can recommend any themes. Yeah, let me know. So I've got this one I tried with a raised pattern, Pico boot. But I feel that the recess and filled would look a lot cleaner, and potentially just be easier to paint if somebody else wants to paint it too. Yeah, cool stuff. Anyway, I'm 8-Bit Toaster. This is me getting out of here, and if you enjoyed it, you do the do. But I'd love to hear some recommendations for designs. Long video, unscripted, as always, and I'll catch you next time.